Hello, beautiful soul. Okay, what's the song? The autumn leaves drift by my window, baby. The autumn leaves of red and gold. I see your lips, those summer kisses, yes. Those sunburned hands I used to hold. So, this episode is dedicated to the film Origin and some of its themes. It is not a film review. And if you've already seen the film, then you may already know the correlation between the leaves and kind of like the feeling of loss and the movie. There are some scenes in there that deal with that and that have some leaves in it. So go check it out. You are listening to Answering the Inner Call podcast. I'm your host, Malika Lee. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a mashup. So I saw online recently, there's this woman who has millions of viewers and is making her coins eating and doing that whole mukbang. Am I saying it right? Mukbang movement. So I really wanted to get this video or this recording and episode done. And I haven't had lunch and it's staring at me right in the face. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to give myself permission to be more free. So this is going to be a mashup of talking about Origin and a mukbang, honey. Let me tell you what's on the menu. So I'm having some nachos with some tomatoes and some pinto. Are these pinto? No, red bean, kidney. Kind of like my version of refried beans with kidney beans. Vegan style. And then, I got to have some greens. So I have some kale on the side, not on my nachos. And then I have my favorite way now to eat carrots, which are pickled carrots. Although I didn't pickle them, I just cooked them. Haven't put them in a jar yet. But I had them at this Mexican food street truck. And ever since I've had them, they're hands down my favorite way personally to eat carrots. And I found a recipe online that gets pretty close to what they tasted like at this food truck. So that's on the menu. Now, if you know me personally, this is going to not be like a mukbang. This will be like talking on the phone with me. Because full disclosure, usually when I'm on the phone, I'm engaged, of course, but if the spirit moves me and I get hungry, I will start to eat. And so this will be like, if you know me personally and we've had conversations, this might be like an experience of talking on the phone with me as I'm eating and talking. And thankfully, because you can't see me, I'm going to, of course, my mother raised me right, so I'm going to try not to talk with too much food in my mouth, but we're still going to keep the conversation going. All right, long intro out the way in the setup. So if you hear the sound effects, and some people are into it, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but this is an experiment. This is an experiment, a 2-for-1, multi-purpose. We're having lunch together, we're having a snack together, mukbang, and talking about a film. Food and film, what can be better? So, Origin, a film by Ava DuVernay, which is inspired by the book Caste, and there's a subtitle with Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent, I think is part of it, by Isabel Wilkerson, which was a New York Times #1 bestseller shortly after the George Floyd, rest in peace to him, honoring his family. Shortly after that, her book came out, I think, or at least after that, the book was recently available and it shot up to #1. Excuse me. So I have not read the book, but the premise is basically these hierarchies, these social hierarchies that people follow, and some believe they're real and some don't, that separate people and put some people up here and some people down there, down meaning beneath them. And there are social benefits to those that are in the upper quote unquote caste, and there are some that, and part of that is keeping other people beneath them. So I'm not going to spoil the movie or the book, but I wanted to encourage you all to check it out, to watch the movie, to read the book, vice versa if you haven't done one or the other. This is an indie film, and I think Ava did a beautiful job of telling the behind-the-scenes story of Isabel coming to these conclusions and doing her research in a really personal way, which is challenging when it's just intellectual. The arts usually encompass the heart, right? And feelings and emotions. And she wove the story together beautifully of dancing, in my opinion, between the efforts to keep us separate, right? And to try to prove that these differences matter between us, and the universal human experience that we share. That being said, you may already know, if you've listened to some of my content, that I'm about that life. And I wanted to talk about it on this platform because, you know, if you've listened to other things, you may know that I've challenged, you know, there's two ways we can see ourselves: in the worldly view, which is the limited, hierarchical, some people have the power, other people don't. Or you can look at yourself and view others through a spiritual lens, which puts a kibosh on all the, that mushroom's good, y'all. That puts a kibosh on all these different hierarchies and acknowledges that the same spirit and potential that is in me is in everyone. And so what I love about caste, what I love about origin, is that oftentimes, just like a fish is swimming in water, we're immersed in it, so we're not even consciously aware of it, right? Like a fish is in water. Water is just the way it is. I'm one with the water. I'm swimming and maneuvering in the water, not giving too much thought about the water. And what books like Caste, what that does, what a film like Origin does, is it calls out the water we're swimming in to now have a conscious awareness of it. And then once we're conscious of it, it's like, okay, do I want to buy into this and believe in this, or don't I? Does this work for me or doesn't it? But as long as we're swimming in the water and kind of like asleep to the circumstances and situations in which we're swimming in, then we by default are giving our power to it. And so that's really what I wanted to talk about and mention with Origin, and to really encourage people to see it and to take young people to see it. It made me think of how revolutionary. I'm a proud graduate of HBCU, and at 18 years old, so I went to an all-female, black female college, Spelman College, shout out, Atlanta, GA, what's up, what's up? And one of the required courses to graduate, and we took it freshwoman year, was a course called African Diaspora in the World. And this course is unique to Spelman College. Dr. Janetta Cole, who was the president at the time, was a visionary, and she realized, you know, we have an institution for Black women, or if you prefer African American or of African descent, whatever floats your boat. I use them all interchangeably. We have this institution for Black women, and we don't have not Nair course. I'm using some Southern vernacular. She didn't say that. We don't have a course that specifically centers Black women. We don't have a single course. Now, you might be able to study, you know, or major in women's studies, or those are, you know, whatever your path is. But as far as like a universal course that finally centers Black women in this educational institution, we don't have a single course that does that. And Spelman was founded in 1881. Dr. Cole was there in the 80s. So literally 100 years, right? And so what they did was they curated a course, and it was an interdisciplinary feat. They got professors from anthropology, and they got professors from history, and they got professors from psychology, and they got, you know, from all the different disciplines. And they came together and curated this course that basically, I would say, lifted the veil from my eyes, the way that Caste does for some, and Origin can help with others, of the water we were swimming in. And, some of the themes and things that we talked about, I remember one was like the pedagogy of the oppressed was one. And the main concept was looking at these social structures and these hierarchies and how they are present, or what Isabel in her book calls caste systems, that are present all over the world in different ways and forms and fashions, and called different things, but how they're all interconnected. And so I just want to say that what I'm about here is about reminding myself, reminding you, it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what you grew up in or with. It doesn't even matter how much money you all have, what your skin color is, what your gender is. The world will tell you that means everything as far as your aptitude, as far as your potential. It's even as far as they try to say your intellect. I'm going on the record right now saying that's all hogwash. And I want to encourage you to check out Origin. I also, in wrapping up, want to just shout out to one of the listeners who posted a comment, Masvita Marere. Thank you so much. I hope that I got that last name right, for your comment, for listening, for supporting this work as a listener. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have seen Origin, or if this inspires you to go check it out, if you've read Caste, or this inspires you. And this is the thing I thought about, because I had a watch party. I got a group together. It was about 9 of us. Went to see the movie. And, there's some uncomfortable things in there. And I was like, oh, I'm inviting people. This might be kind of heavy or whatever. But then it's like, well, we act like by not watching the movie or facing it, that we're still not swimming in the waters, right? Like, we act like if we don't say the water is cold, then the fact that we're swimming in it and we don't call it out makes it easier for the water to be cold. That doesn't even make sense, right? And so anyway, I was like, why? I'm encouraging people, and we're getting people together to watch this thing that calls out what we're already immersed in moment by moment, day to day in our lives. And sure, it might be uncomfortable, but we're already in the discomfort of it because we're in it, unless you want to turn your blind eye and live in denial. And that is what, I think part of white privilege can be. And I have an episode with Bob Ness on white privilege. If you haven't checked it out, it's from a few years back. Go peep it. But for those that are aware of, or on a lower quote unquote caste system, you're already aware of what some of the privileges are, and not being centered in either education and seeing yourself in your reflection, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, my point in all that is to say that it can be so liberating to then have a name for, and to recognize and to hear what these structures are that you might be feeling, that you might have sensed, but just couldn't articulate. Because once it's on our conscious mind, then we have a conscious choice in the matter. And that's where our power is, baby. So I'm going to wrap it up for now. My food is getting cold. I didn't do too well with this whole mukbang thing. Maybe I'll try again another time, maybe not. But until the next time, be blessed, be well. And if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you just subscribe, come back, listen for more, share it with a friend if you hear something that resonates with you. And please leave a comment. I'll see it if it's on either YouTube or Apple Podcasts, and I'll be sure to shout you out like I did my good listener and friend Masvita in another episode. Bye for now.